A very warm welcome to all of you watching the show. This is Overdrive and you're with me, Sohini Dutt. This week we realized it had been a very long time since we embarked on an epic road trip, and after racking our brains about the various places we had already visited, it dawned on us that the place you tend to miss out on is the place closest to home. So we decided it was time to knock on the doors of a few of our neighbouring countries. So here's the first leg of the Overdrive Meet the Neighbours Drive Expedition. In man's search for mystic and exotic lands, he often overlooks his own neighborhood. Overdrive has been on many such expeditions across the world. It was time we ventured beyond our immediate boundaries by road. It was time we paid a visit to our neighbors, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar and Bangladesh. As wise travelers before us counseled, the world is so much more beautiful when viewed through the windscreen of a car. The windscreens in question for our expedition would belong to Nissan Terranos. At Overdrive, we usually like to travel alone, but we'd make an exception this time around for avid Overdrive enthusiasts. Of course, you can't simply pack your bags and hobble across international borders. So, for such a journey, we sought help from Asia Safari, a tourism firm headed by retired Indian Army officer Captain Raj Kumar. Ideally, road trips commence at the crack of dawn. Our circumstances though demanded that we begin the trip toward our first border an hour before midnight with the intention of reaching the border by twilight. It was imperative that we sustained good pace throughout the night if we intended to reach the border by dawn. At first light, we managed to locate ourselves at Nanak Mata Lake in Uttarakhand, only a stone's throw away from the Indo-Nepal border. Now, it's relatively easy for us to enter into Nepal thanks to the historical friendly relations we share with the country. All we need is a Government of India stamped identification proof and we're all set.
At the border of Nepal and starting the journey from home, any traveller should remember to carry firstly the original document of his vehicle, which is imperative, followed by the insurance applicable. Third is his personal ID proof, and this is the requirement for crossing the Indian border to Nepal.
Paperwork is a necessary evil, and once we wrapped up with it and headed out, it seemed difficult to surmise that we were in another country. The topography, the demography, the road infrastructure, everything seemed identical to our northeastern states. We were now on what was pertinently called the Indo-Nepal Highway.
Driving experience in Nepal, well, it's pretty similar to India in that the roads are some good, some bad as far as surface is concerned. Most of the roads are narrow dual carriageways. Most of the highways are the same as well.
Nepal attracts a lot of mountaineers from all across the world. But to get to the mountains, one has to travel through marshy grasslands, better known as the Tarai region, and a number of forests before the great mountains surface. We've been on the road for 28 hours and we've covered about 1200 odd kilometers, and we're driving through this gorgeous Tarai region of Nepal. We're about 270 odd kilometers away from Kathmandu, and we couldn't have picked a better day to visit Kathmandu because today is the auspicious day of Bodh Purnima, which is Gautam Buddha's birthday, and devotees from all across Nepal are going to gather together to celebrate on this occasion.
So if you're going to meet your neighbors, the best way to get a flavor of the country and what is really local is not eating in a star restaurant. What you need to do is actually get down to the place where the locals eat.
With our stomachs full and our spirit of adventure rekindled, we hope to head uphill and join in the festivities for the auspicious day in the capital city. However, our enthusiasm was completely drowned by the innate adversary of road-going explorations, traffic. As they say, the last mile is excruciatingly the longest. In our case, it was 40 kilometers before we reached Kathmandu. A good night's rest was all we needed as we gathered ourselves and headed into the city of Kathmandu, the largest urban agglomerate of Nepal. We decided to first visit a stupa, but not just any ordinary stupa. A towering structure dominating the skyline of Kathmandu. A pit stop on the ancient Tibetan-Nepal route where millions of pilgrims and merchants stopped, offered their prayers and sought blessings.
We're at Bodhnath, which is home to one of the largest stupas in the world, the Bodhnath Stupa. Now this became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1979. And as we know that yesterday we missed all the celebrations at Swayambhunath Temple, but we're here today at Bodhnath Stupa making up for it. I do believe that yesterday all the monks were out here chanting and lighting up beautiful diyas. We missed all that action, but nonetheless we're here today and you just have to be here to see how mesmerizing this place actually is.
Having marveled at the sense of serenity you experience at Bodhnath, it was time to make our way to a temple that has been a very popular pilgrim spot for devout Hindus all across the world.
Pashupatinath Temple is the oldest Hindu temple built here in Kathmandu, and it is also the most significant Shiva temple in the world. On Mahashivratri, over 700,000 followers come here from India and Nepal to offer their prayers to Lord Shiva. Now I'm going to be doing the same in a couple of minutes, but unfortunately you will not be able to join me in there because photography of any kind is restricted. So it's 4:30 AM and even though we are set for a long journey today, we are really excited because in a couple of hours we're going to be catching the early morning sunrise, 9,000 feet above sea level, and we are also hoping to catch a glimpse of the snow-clad peaks.
4 hours after driving further uphill through beautiful winding roads, we reached our breathtaking breakfast stop at Daman.
Well, this by far is definitely the high point of our trip here in Nepal. It's not every day that you get to stand 9,000 feet above sea level and get to marvel at these gorgeous 8 peaks, okay, out of 14 that we can see over here. Right behind me is Annapurna, in front of me is Everest, but this is not the best time to visit over here because everything is very hazy. October, November would be the best time when you can view this entire range, all these ranges, without any obstruction.
We would have loved to stay a bit longer and enjoy some fresh mountain air, but it was time to head down to the town of Hetwada and onto the border.
So our journey ends here, the eastern side of the Nepalese border. This is Kakalvita, and as Indians, as long as you have your valid documentations and your ID proofs, everything is sorted. All you need to do is, if you're doing a road trip like us, you would have been given a green number plate. You have to return it to the RTO. So once you cross this checkpost, 1 kilometer ahead is Siliguri and you're back into India. So Ferry Bedula on the other side.
After the break, we head to a land that has remained a mystery to globetrotters for decades. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. With Nepal ticked off our list, our initial plan was to head to Bangladesh. But due to the changing political regimes, we were advised against entering Bangladesh with Indian registered vehicle. It was a tough decision to make, but we wisened up, improvised and headed for the next leg of our journey. We were in for a 2-day journey from the capital of Assam, which is Guwahati, to the border of Myanmar. En route, we had the opportunity to drive along the Second World War corridor in Kohima, where we decided to pay visit to an important chapter from the pages of history.
Right now I'm standing in one of the most historic locations. This is where the Battle of Kohima was fought during the Second World War, and over 1,500 brave soldiers lay to rest in this battlefield.
With a nip of gratitude and a further sense of adventure building, it was time for us to head towards the Moreh border in Manipur. The Union of Myanmar borders 4 Indian states: Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram and Manipur. We were informed that at the time crossing through Manipur was the ideal route and also the best motorable road available to us. But as we reached the Manipur border and prepared our paperwork, which might I add was in impeccable order, we realized that the crossing into Myanmar was not going to be as smooth as it had been in Nepal. Travelers ought to be wary of unexpected surprises.
Then you'll have to give us your carnets.
At Moreh border, the first thing is the authority of the SDPO, Sub-Divisional Police Officer. He gives immigration stamp on the passport after checking you personally. First step is cleared. The Myanmar authority with whom we are traveling, we need to have a local tour operator recognized by the government of Myanmar. He gets a permission from his country, the highest office in Myanmar, the president office, officer staff issues that permission. He gets that permission, sent us to in advance, a copy of which is notarized in English from their mother tongue. The same we deposit to the Ministry of External Affairs, and Ministry of External Affairs, the confidence of the permission as it is collected by us from the Embassy of Myanmar in Delhi. So they then issue the political clearance. There are 8.
After an excruciating 5-hour delay caused by misunderstandings about the requirement of Carnet papers, which is a custom check exemption document, we finally crossed over to the Union of Myanmar, a country conversely known as Burma.
As road trips go, uncertainties and delays are part and parcel of the journey. Every time we think that we're going to land up in a place early, we end up coming way beyond sundown. We finally made it well beyond dinner time. Everyone has left me and gone for some hot local food. I guess I'll join them, and we need some much needed rest, and we'll regroup tomorrow.
These are the registration papers, temporary registration papers that you need to keep in your car when you're traveling in Myanmar.
Driving from Tammu to Mandalay was our first real taste of driving on the right-hand side of the road, which wasn't as disconcerting as you'd imagine if, like us, you would maintain disciplinary speeds. Driving through the countryside, you see a bit of everything. From vast green fields, picture-perfect bamboo houses, to long stretches of twisties that turned out to be a challenging off-road course for all of us.
We are on the road between Calais and we're on our way to Mandalay. And we stopped at a local dhaba to have, it's a very do-it-yourself kind of a meal. We got some what looks like pickled vegetables, chili, something sour, something sweet, and you build your meal up the way you want it with some pork or some chicken, and looks really good. Let's see how it is.
After 200 odd kilometers of pure driving bliss, our destination for the night awaited us, the cultural hub of Myanmar, the city of Mandalay.
Nice to meet you.
Mandalay, the last royal capital of Burma, was founded by King Mindon in 1857 and enjoyed the status of national capital for the next 26 years until the British took over Upper Burma and abolished the monarchy. Another absolute must-see are the colossal white lions guarding the foothills of the Mandalay Hills. As we took in the sights and sounds of Mandalay, I realized someone had rightly described Myanmar as a place that transports you into another era and then brings you back surely and safely to the comforts of modern life. It was time to bid adieu to Mandalay as we set off for a 3-hour drive to the central part of Myanmar to visit the ancient city of Bagan. A city built in the 13th century that boasts of over 3,000 beautiful temples, pagodas, stupas and monasteries. My curiosity got the better of me as I decided to step inside one of the most popular temples in Bagan, the Ananda temple built in the 11th century.
Mingalaba. This is one of the most famous temples in Myanmar, and the name is Ananda. It is already over 900 years old. It was built in 1091. The architecture of this temple is incredible. Nobody can believe it was created in 11th century. We can see one of the 4 Buddha statues. This is the western entrance. We gilded all these wooden Buddha statues. They are the real gold.
If you have gone to Bagan and if you have seen that ruins of the pagodas or temple which are almost 4,000 plus in number, anybody can say, okay, you have been to Myanmar, because that represents Myanmar, like Taj Mahal or Eiffel Tower representing India or Paris.
It was time then to say our goodbye to Myanmar and our hospitable tour guides who had made our journey both enjoyable and comfortable.
ကဲအခုခင်ဗျားတို့ခီးစဉ်လည်းပြီးသွားပြီပေါ့နော်ဟိုလာရောက်လဲပတ်ခြင်းတွေကျွန်တော်တို့ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်နောက်တစ်ခေါက်ထပ်လာအောင်မယ်လို့မျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်နောက်ထပ်တွေ့ဖို့လည်းမကြခင်မှာတွေ့ဖို့မျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်
Another road trip to meet our northeastern neighbor, the Union of Myanmar, is come to an end. We are standing at the border crossing at Tamu. This is the Myanmar side. Across is India. But what an eye-opener this experience has been. Myanmar has something to offer to everybody who visits over here. So if you are someone whose interest lies in looking at the ancient architectural marvels, then the ruined temples at Bagan is where you need to be. If you're looking to discover a little more about the culture in Myanmar, then Mandalay is where you should visit. And Yangon is the business hub of Myanmar, but the main attraction for us on this road trip was the delicious food that the locals have been cooking for us. But it's been extremely hot throughout our journey here in Myanmar. December and Jan is the ideal time you should visit here, but I didn't have to worry too much about the sun because I had my bamboo hat with me all the time.
On the other side, we head to the Royal Kingdom of Bhutan. Welcome back to our Meet the Neighbors road trip special on Overdrive. We're on an epic journey of a lifetime and it's time to journey on to our final neighbor, one that is housed cozily in the lap of the Himalayas.
Welcome back to yet another special driving expedition where we've been spending a lot of time to get to know our northeastern neighbouring countries. This time around we're in a beautiful landlocked country which has opened its gates to tourism close to 40 years ago and yet remains to be relatively uncharted territory. I'm talking about a country which measures its prosperity not by GDP but by GNH, which is gross national happiness of its people. I'm talking about the Royal Kingdom of Bhutan. It's time to discover more about it.
Bhutan is one of those countries where a road trip is the way to travel to. Not only is air travel costly, infrequent and inconvenient to this remote destination, but like Nepal, it is quite easy for Indians to drive through the borders with no visa required. It is, however, recommended and necessary that you seek the help of a government-certified local tour guide who takes care of immigration and other formalities at the border and other checkpoints. The Nissan Meet the Neighbors expedition was glad to have liaised with Karma Gogo, who helped make our relatively short stint in Bhutan quite a memorable one. Unfortunately, despite not needing a visa to enter and Karma's help, the paperwork and formality warranty a lot of time and patience, and hence we spent half a day at the Bhutanese Immigration and RTO office. It is hence advisable that you add an extra day to simply finish off paperwork at the border whenever you plan a road trip to Bhutan. While we waited, we couldn't help but notice that many Bhutanese people still dress in their traditional outfits. Kira for the ladies and a heavy knee-length robe tied with a belt called Gho for the men, which, as Karma explained to us, serves more than one purpose.
Guzuzang Pola. So what I'm wearing is our Bhutanese national go, like we say national dress go. So we can use this go as a multi-purpose. For example, have a look. One more glass. So you have two pockets. Front pocket, back pocket, and goes around all over your body. Thank you.
Our tight schedule meant we had to drive up the gorgeous mountain roads from Phun Choling to Thimphu late in the evening. And as we raced against time to make our way to the valley of Paro, the shutterbugs in us came alive.
Not many of us can boast of traveling across borders over a 17-day road trip, but we were lucky enough to be given this opportunity, and what really helped us was the fact that we had two of Canon's best equipments with us, one of which is the Canon EOS 5D Mark III and the other one is the EOS 6D. The best part about both of these cameras is the fact that both of them offer a right balance, the perfect set of balance between higher image quality and higher ISO setting.
Waking up to the sights of a rainy morning in an old world town nestled in the hills is no less than a dream. We rubbed our eyes and realized that this fairy tale town was Paro, a quaint settlement in the Paro Valley which is also home to the only international airport in Bhutan. A short drive away from our hotel was one of the oldest Buddhist temples built in Paro. According to folklore, the Kichu Lakang temple was built in the 7th century by the Tibetan Emperor Songtsen Gampo over a demoness who tried to prevent Buddhism from spreading in the Himalayas. The Kichu Lakang temple should make it to your must-visit list in Bhutan for its simplicity and serenity. After paying respect to the gods in Bhutan, we decided to spend some time observing the Thangka painters at work. Thangka is a form of Buddhist art expressed on a cotton or silk applique. The artists take anywhere from 4 to 6 months to complete the paintings, each of which require close to 10 hours of almost meditative dedication every single day of the week. Once we were done with our short stroll on the streets of Paro, we decided to move on to the capital city of Thimphu, which is just a short drive away. By the time we reached, we wanted nothing more than to have an authentic Bhutanese lunch.
As you can see, when some of us Indians travel abroad, we can't do without a dal, roti and rice. But when I go abroad, I like to sample the local flavors. So today it's going to be red rice, skip, roti skip, chicken skip, sabzi, dal. It's going to be some imadachi, which is actually chilies with cheese. It's a delicacy here in Bhutan. And we're going to go with some double fried pork. I think that's going to settle really well in my tummy.
Unfortunately, our packed schedules didn't allow us much time in Bhutan. But in the few hours we had in the capital, we managed a short visit to the magnificent and colossal Buddha statue that sits comfortably atop a mountain watching over the city of Thimphu.
This is where we conclude our Meet the Neighbours drive expedition, 2,500 meters above sea level in Bhutan. And as you can see, Bhutan has been raining in on us. This is definitely not the best time to visit Bhutan. Spring and autumn is when you should come and have a look at this gorgeous place. But we have enjoyed every single minute of our trip over here. So I think it's time for you to start planning your trip to our neighbouring countries, and it's time for me to head out of this rain and get a little warm.
If you enjoyed watching our this week's road trip special, remember you can catch the highlights of this show as well as our previous episodes on our YouTube channel. You can also participate in one of these adventurous road trips by just keeping a track of all the updates on www.overdrive.in. Do tune in next week as Bert will bring you the much awaited first drive of the Honda Mobilio.